Pete, give us a little bit of sports stuff, will you?
Yeah, let's chuck in a little bit of sports, John. We don't have to go crazy with it, but I just find this so interesting. I'm looking at the Kansas City Chiefs. They are the 7-0 Kansas City Chiefs. And yet, here's the interesting part, John. You'd obviously say, well, obviously they've got Patrick Mahomes and he is a superstar, which he is. And he's an MVP of Super Bowls. Yeah, sure he is. This guy has been an absolute killer when it comes to being a quarterback in the NFL. But, not so quick. Not this year, John. When you look at his numbers, he's got 8 touchdowns and 9 interceptions. He's got a passer rating of 84.9. He's got a QBR of 67. Patrick Mahomes is not the one leading this team this year. And that's okay because they do such a good job with the Kansas City Chiefs on how they draft, the free agents that they sign. They lose a great running back in Pacheco, and they just say, next man up. Kareem Hunt, you're the guy. Next man up. Patrick Mahomes, you're going to have to run the ball a little bit more. Step up to the plate. So that's exactly what's happening. But, John, when you look at the defense of the Kansas City Chiefs, they are basically in the top 5 of the NFL in multiple categories, and they are the ones this year who are carrying the Chiefs. And I find it really interesting because they're giving up 17 points a game. Now, how are they doing that? Well, they're running the ball a little bit. They're not passing it as much. When they do pass the ball, they're going to a guy by the name of Xavier Worthy, who only is the fastest guy maybe ever in the 40-yard dash in the NFL, who, by the way, he replaces from a couple of years ago Tyreek Hill, who pretty much had that as well. So they've got the speed. They've got this burner out there. They can get him the ball once in a while with Patrick Mahomes. But the offense isn't the offense that they've been, so they lean on the defense. And that's why this team continues to move to the upside. They've got just about everything you'd want, John. They got 15 sacks. They got total yards, number 5 in the league. They're giving up a little less than 300 yards a game. They are doing it on defense this year, and that's the sign of a true championship team. When they lose a little something, they gain it somewhere else. That's what the Chiefs are doing. Everybody loves the defensive coordinator for all the right reasons. This guy puts them in the right spot to do the right thing, and they are doing it because the offense, people aren't recognizing this, they're struggling, which means there could be an opening in the AFC. Doesn't mean that Kansas City's cooked or anything. They're 7-0, obviously, but this is a year where maybe there are some other teams that could challenge them. Baltimore comes to mind. Buffalo comes to mind. Some of those AFC teams. We'll see how it all plays out. But even without Patrick Mahomes being the superstar that he is, John, it's an amazing job of coaching by the coaches at Kansas City right now.
Yeah, it certainly is, Pete. And I'll point out a little fact that I got over from our friends at Bleacher Report, Pete, and that is fewest games to 30,000 passing yards. Dan Marino, 114 games. Kurt Warner, also 114 games. Matthew Stafford, who went from, of course, Detroit to the Rams, 109 games. Patrick Mahomes, 103 games. He's definitely an elite company. He is also, as Pete said, not having his best year, but he might not need to have his best year. He's somewhere in the middle. I think he's ranked 16 right now of the 32 teams. So they can't be more in the middle than that, Pete. But all they're doing is winning. They're 7-0. So you Chiefs haters keep hating on them. They'll just keep winning.
All right, next up, we're going to stick with the NFL, and we're going to stick with quarterbacks, John. I just thought it would be fun to point something out because there were so many haters of a guy by the name of Kyler Murray. Well, he's too small. They shouldn't have picked him. They shouldn't have drafted him. Well, he's not studying. He's not doing this. He's not doing that. Well, that all was true. He is small. He wasn't studying. But it looks like, John, he's kind of figured out the NFL a little bit. And this guy is a guy that nobody's paying any attention to. We are, because we like to do that kind of thing. We like to isolate it on unusual activity. How about this for unusual activity? Not in the options, but in football. He's got 11 touchdowns with 3 interceptions. I would say that Kyler Murray is having a much different year than he has in the past. He's the QBR. He's rated number 3 in QBR. They've had some losses, but here's the teams they've lost to, John. Buffalo, one of the best teams in the AFC. The Lions, the best team in the NFC. Washington, another very good team in the NFC. The way they played, the way that quarterback has played has been amazing. Oh, And the Green Bay Packers at Green Bay, another team that has played extremely well. As long as they can keep that quarterback together, I think they're going to be a threat once we get into playoff time. But they beat up on some teams. They beat up on the Rams pretty good. They beat the 49ers, didn't beat up on them, but they won against the Niners within their own division, the Chargers, the Dolphins. So this is a team that's got a quarterback that everybody flushed down the toilet, said he's done, he's cooked. What helps a quarterback, John, is a running back. And they got James Connors, who's a tough egg. The guy went through cancer and all of that stuff out there at Pittsburgh with the Steelers and Pitt. And now he's out there in Arizona, loving life, 4.5 yards a carry, put up about 550 or 60 yards, John. They are running, they're gunning, and Kyler Murray is not throwing interceptions this year. So you got to point out when somebody's doing something bad, sure. But how about when somebody's doing as well as he is right now? He is really playing well in the NFL.
Oh, he sure is, Pete. And he's finally, because truth be told, he did not live up to that 5-year, $230 million contract extension that he got in 2022. So 2022, 2023, people were saying he's done, just like Pete said. Pete didn't say he was done, but people said he was done. Doesn't look like he's done now, Pete. Looks like he's a leader, and I think you're spot on with he just needed a good, solid O-line and a running back so that he didn't just have to do it with his feet, so that he didn't just have to throw the ball, 75% of the time. Now they can put up a much more balanced offense, and that makes all the difference in the NFL because that makes it tougher on Steve Spagnuolo, the D coordinator over with the Chiefs, or any other D coordinator. Makes it a lot tougher if they can't just say, well, 3 out of 4 times he's going to throw the ball, so this is what I'm going to do. If it looks more like, hey, half the time he's going to run the ball, half the time he's going to throw the ball, it's a lot tougher to defend. So Kyler Murray, great to see that young man doing so well, Pete.
And they helped him out, John. They got him a left tackle that can block a couple of years ago, not too long ago. But they also this year decided, you know what, we're going to go with the receiver. They got Marvin Harrison, one of the best there is. You give that guy the right tools, he's starting to show, you know what, with the right players, and they were a terrible team at one time, but with the right players, he can actually survive, and he can actually do better than surviving, and he's showing it right now. It's pretty impressive.